So
I'll turn it to you.
Okay, thank you. And just a reminder that this is for educational purposes only, and we are recording this, and the commissioner will not take public comments regarding the redistricting manners during the event. I got the privilege of seeing him last week in VICA, and I know there's a few other events scheduled that I am attending with some of the other commissioners. I don't know how that happened, that there are other commissioners, but for this area, but it'll be interesting for me that I get to see a lot of different people speaking on it. I don't know if it's the exact same or if you have your own little twist on it, but Derek Taylor is currently an investigator with the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department. He has served California communities for over 25 years in a wide variety of ensuring investigations are complete and just in an equitable manner in a wide variety of categories ranging from assault to computer crimes, which we're very familiar with here in the real estate industry. And we do have speakers on that because we're a very targeted industry. Mr. Taylor received his BA in accounting from Morehouse College in Atlanta, Georgia, and his master's degree in crime law and society from the University of California, Irvine. Mr. Taylor is an active volunteer with the Los Angeles and San Gabriel Valley areas, serving as a mentor and coach among other duties. Mr. Taylor is registered with the Republican Party. Well, thank you, Derek, for being here. We really appreciate it. It was kind of a little short notice, but we had a spot open here and we're very interested. I did get an updated presentation. It's not in PowerPoint, it is in the PDF, so I'm going to be running that for you.
Great, thank you. I appreciate the invite. I'm more than happy to be here. Thank you for the introduction. If you can throw up slide number 1, I think
yes,
we can begin.
I'm considered co-host, so it's asking me, it's giving me, oh shoot. Oh, I got it, sorry. I think this is yours. Is this it? This is it.
That's it, that's number 1. So once again, thank you for inviting the California Citizens Redistricting Commission to present at your meeting. As Elizabeth said, my name is Derek Taylor, and I'm one of the 14 commissioners selected to draw the new electoral district lines following the 2020 census. A little bit about myself. I'm a California kid, so I was born and raised in California, born in Los Angeles, so raised in the San Gabriel Valley. Again, married father of 3. I have a 16-year-old, a 12-year-old, and an 8-year-old that are currently at home with me going to school. They could be doing any number of things. Nonetheless, we're all managing through this COVID environment. One of the things that they wanted us to sort of hit on is why we chose to participate in this process. Why the commissioners and myself in particular applied to be a redistricting commissioner. Why we participated. And one of the first,
it's on that little chair by that basket.
One of the first things that came to my mind is that, like most of us, I try to emulate the behavior I want my children to mimic. I want them to be good citizens. I want them to be good humans, and we always talk about civic engagement. So when I heard on the radio that there was an opportunity participation in this process, I thought it was a great opportunity to emulate that behavior, to put my money where my mouth is, and to show my kids that we all should be a part of the process. I also thought that it was an opportunity for other community members to see someone who they know, someone who they can tangibly touch, contribute to the democratic process. Oftentimes we see political figures or people that affect our futures from afar, and I thought this was an opportunity for my community to firsthand participate in the process and to be able to know someone that's doing the business of the state. So that being said, in this redistricting presentation, we'll be going over who the commission is, what we do, and how you can get involved in the process. Slide number 2, please. This is a big reminder. No public input will be taken today. I can't take any public input as it relates to drawing lines. California Government Code Section 8253(3) strictly forbids commissioners and staff from taking public input outside of a regularly scheduled commission meeting or official public input meeting. However, at any point, you're more than welcome to visit our website at wedrawthelineca.org to provide input. You will find instructions on how to do so under the public comment section. Next slide, please. Thank you. The million-dollar question, what is redistricting? We are trying really hard to make redistricting sexy. The word is hard enough to say as it is, but it's rather challenging. Redistricting is defined as drawing new boundary lines that determine which Californians are represented by each electoral district. And the little doodle that's on our screen shows you the how representation, census data, and redistricting are all related. It's a cycle that's dependent upon on one another. They all revolve around the same concept of representation. Next slide, please. Thank you. Why do we redraw the lines? You might be wondering why we redraw the lines every 10 years. It is important to note that a lot changes in those 10 years. Communities change, priorities, interests, goals, and the things that make up a community all shift. People are born and die and move within and out of California. Communities grow in size and they shrink. Areas where there once was roughly the same number of people become unequal. Those numbers change. These are some of the reasons districts need to be redrawn. As communities change, the districts need to be updated to reflect those changes. Next slide, please. Thank you. One of the greatest powers that the people of California have is to elect their own representatives to conduct the business of their government. How the district boundaries are configured can make the difference between empowering and maximizing the voter's voice or minimizing and muting those voices. In most other states, politicians redraw districts and often end up drawing safe districts for themselves to allow them to stay in office. Redistricting has been used at times to exclude communities from political power by fully participating in and monitoring the upcoming redistricting process. More communities may have the opportunity to elect candidates of their choice. Speaking up about your community is critical to help your community as a whole, to help your community to the best extent possible, This ensures that your voice is heard by your elected leaders when making decisions such as the quality of life and the funding of your child's education and determining your tax rates. Your input is valuable in shaping the new political boundaries. Next slide, please. How does redistricting affect you? We thought it would be beneficial for us to break down how redistricting affects you directly. It gives power to the people. The Voters First Act was historic in California. It transferred the power of drawing district maps away from politicians and gave it to the people. It enabled us to have the power. We're able to champion our issues. You're able to champion your issues. Having the opportunity to elect representatives that champion your issues is important in a state like California, where issues can vary drastically from one street to the next. Northern California might champion environmental and economic issues, while Central California might champion water and agricultural issues, and Southern California might champion issues dealing with transportation, housing, and employment. Funding priorities. Tied to the issue of electing representatives that champion your issues, you might want to elect representatives that have your financial interests at heart. When the time comes to build a budget, you will want a representative fighting to ensure your community gets the financial resources it deserves for various services such as education, water, and fire protection. And you might want to protect your community boundaries. The redistricting process is all about drawing lines and determining which communities get grouped into districts. Your input in this process is essential to help commissioners understand where your community starts and ends. Redistricting in California is one of the few civic activities that any Californian can provide input to regarding their community that ultimately impacts the law and regulations, tax structure, how funding is distributed, and which services are provided. Next slide, please. The US Constitution requires that every American receive as close to equal representation as possible in government. As population of districts change over time, it can leave some people overrepresented and others underrepresented in government. Redistricting evens out the population between the districts. After the federal government publishes updated census information, California must redraw the boundaries of its congressional, state senate, state assembly, and state board of equalization districts so that the districts correctly reflect the latest count of the state's population. Redistricting is based on the idea that each of our voices should be represented fairly by creating districts that have the same number of people. Census results are used to draw the new maps every 10 years to account for the ways that populations have changed and moved across the states and districts. At the federal level, reapportionment takes place to reallocate US House seats among the states. This too is done after each national census to ensure that the seats are held by the states in proportion to the size of their population. California currently has 53 House seats, and that might change after we get the new updated census numbers. Historically, legislatures have drawn maps that allowed them to choose their constituents rather than enabling constituents to choose their representatives. This formist system undermines the concept of fair representation, which is to give people the power to choose their representative, and that harkens back to our earlier concept of power to the people. Next slide, please. Thank you. We have talked about how redistricting affects you, and now we explain why independent redistricting matters. Democracy depends on voters having the opportunity to choose their representatives. When elected officials redraw the lines of their own districts, they get to design their own territories and choose who their voters are. This slide highlights key terms in redistricting to help understand why it's important to delegate the power of redistricting to the people. Gerrymandering, which is the big word that we always hear, happens when the election district's boundaries are drawn in a way that gives a particular set of people, like a political party or a racial group, an unfair political advantage over another. This graph shows how in a jurisdiction with 50 people, 60% orange and 40% purple, 5 districts can be drawn in multiple ways, but it's not always fair. The first 2 examples show 2 ways to draw district lines in a fair manner, where the districts are drawn to reflect the population proportionally. The 2 examples on the far right show ways to draw districts in a manner that does not reflect the population fairly, which is referred to as gerrymandering. This is why independent commissions, like California commissions, were created to remove the politics from the process and focus on the people, to eliminate the gerrymandering by people choosing to draw the districts for safe elections. Next slide, please. What is the criteria? The commissions must follow these criteria in this order when drawing the district maps. Number 1, the districts must be nearly equal population to comply with the US Constitution. Number 2, districts must comply with the Voting Rights Act to ensure that minorities have a fair opportunity to elect representatives of their choice. Number 3, districts must be drawn contiguously so that all parts of the districts are connected to each other. Number 4, districts must minimize the divisions of cities, counties, neighborhoods, and communities of interest to the best extent possible. Number 5, districts should be geographically compact such that nearby areas of population are not bypassed for more distant populations. This requirement refers to density and not shape. And number 6, where practical, each Senate district should be comprised of 2 complete and adjacent assembly districts. Board of Equalization districts should be comprised of 10 complete and adjacent state Senate districts. In addition, the place of residence of any incumbent or political candidate may not be considered in the creation of a map, and districts may not be drawn for the purpose of favoring or discriminating against an incumbent, political candidate, or political party. Next slide, please. We are one of many. There are numerous redistricting efforts that are going on at the same time. The commission is redrawing the districts for state office, where I represent. While counties, cities, school districts, water districts, and community college districts are also redrawing their districts at the same time. We want to bring this to your attention because different efforts are happening simultaneously, and it can be confusing. Aside from being involved in the state redistricting process, we encourage you to be involved in your local redistricting as well. Participate in all of the redistricting efforts that you can. Have a voice. Next slide, please. Prior to 2010, legislatures in California drew the lines. If the legislature failed to properly draw the lines, the court drew the lines. In 2008, California voters passed Proposition 11, the Voters First Act, authorizing the creation of an independent commission to draw new district lines for the state Senate, state assembly, and Board of Equalization. In 2010, Proposition 20, the Voters First Act for Congress, added the responsibility of drawing congressional districts to the commission. Our goal as a commission is to spread the word that the people's role did not end with being counted in the census, and to collect valuable community input to assist us in the process of drawing new districts. The drawing of the lines is a collaborative effort. The 2010 Redistricting Commission was California's first independent commission. The 2020 Redistricting Commission is building upon their work and will leave behind a detailed documents to assist the 2030 commission, the oncoming commission, when they perform their duties. Other states with independent commissions include Arizona, Colorado, Idaho, Michigan, Montana, and Washington. And there are a number of other states that are currently in litigation or in the process of exploring their own independent redistricting. Next slide, please. How did I end up in this position? How did I end up where I'm presenting to you guys today? The commissioners all went through a rigorous application process that attracted over 20,000 applicants in 2019. After initial review, over 2,000 individuals completed a supplemental application. After a very thorough and public review, 120 applicants split up into 40 Democrats, 40 Republicans, and 40 other individuals not affiliated with those two parties were invited to interview, from which another 60, 20, 20, and 20 were chosen to be presented to the legislature. Excuse me. The California legislature was allowed to remove no more than 24 of those candidates. So they were given some preemptive strikes, 8 from each of those candidate pools, leaving a total of 36. The first 8 members, 3 and 2, 3 Democrats, 3 Republicans, and 2 others not affiliated, were selected through a public drawing in July of 2020. I was one of those first commissioners that won the lottery. The final 6 members, 2 Democrats, 2 Republicans, and 2 others not affiliated, were then carefully selected by the first 8 commissioners in August of 2020, taking several considerations into account to include political party, geography, race, gender, and expertise. Next slide, please. And that is us right there. That is our 14 commissioners, a very diverse and conscientious and wonderful groups of individuals that I've had the pleasure of working with over the last number of months. We are a 14-member commissioner made up of 5 Republicans, 5 Democrats, and 4 members not affiliated with either of those 2 parties. We're diverse in geography and opinions and expertise. There are 7 from Northern California, 7 from Southern California, 8 women, 6 men. We range in age from our 30s to our 60s. There are NGO leaders, engineers, pastors, a police officer, a political scientist, a lawyer, and other public servants. We encourage you to join us at one of our commission meetings. They are all currently held online right now due to COVID. Instructions and a link for attending our online meetings are available on our website. Next slide, please. After the education sessions, the commission will hold public input meetings and accept community input and public testimony to assist in drawing the new electoral maps. The commission will draw maps for the 4 different governmental bodies, 53 for Congress, 40 for State Senate, 80 for the State Assembly, and 4 for the Board of Equalization. If you look at the slide, we've used an example from Sacramento to demonstrate what the different maps look like for each district type. So on the far left will be the congressional map, the Senate map, the Assembly map, and the Board of Equalization map. Next slide, please. From February to May, and that date has been extended due to the release of the census information. We are conducting these redistricting basic presentations to educate the public about the redistricting process. We have divided the state into 11 outreach zones, A through K, to better manage our outreach efforts and to build relationships with community groups. We are eager to engage with all communities. We are more than happy to set up a redistricting basics presentation with any group that requests one. We plan to have this presentation available in video form in case groups would prefer that option. Next slide, please. Thank you. When drawing maps, we have to be mindful of communities of interest. We can obtain the city and county information, but we need the community of interest information from Californians. Communities of interest are defined as a concentrated population which shares common social and economic interests that should be included within a single district for purpose of its effective and fair representation. Examples include areas in which the people share similar living standards, have similar cultures, use the same transportation facilities, have similar work opportunities, or have access to the same media. People can belong to multiple communities of interest. It's not relegated to a single community. Keep in mind that a community of interest is not the same as a district, but communities of interest are key building blocks of districts. Some ways to describe your community include the geography, waterways, rural, urban, mountains, boundaries, cities, towns, counties, schools, freeways, things you have in common, education, schools, any number of things can be defined as the communities of interest. Next slide, please. Thank you. Communities of interest can be described by creating maps and telling us about your community. While there are no clear rules on how to define a community of interest, the following are the basic elements to help you define your communities. Oral testimony. Personal stories are powerful. Share examples of things members of your community have in common and what makes your community unique. Imagine describing your community to a visitor from out of town. Does your neighborhood share certain celebrations and traditions like street festivals or parades? Are there important places where your community gathers, like parks or community centers? What is the history of how your community came together? This can be done at commission meetings or hearings. It can be given to us by written testimony. A written description can be used to tell your community's story, describe what connects the people and why it's important that they be kept together during redistricting. Whenever possible, include statistics to support your testimony, including data on ethnicity, religious groups, educational levels, graduation rates, median household income, poverty levels, access to technology. Consider using reliable sources such as the Census Bureau. A community can be defined by the community issues. Communities often get involved in redistricting because they feel their issues have not been adequately addressed by the elected representative. Highlighting community issues and personal stories and written narratives help demonstrate the importance of having elected officials who understand and respond to your community's needs. Boundary maps. We would like you to create a map of your neighborhood or area. Mark the street names and significant locations. You can include landmarks and gathering places, include social service agency, community centers, shopping districts, schools, and religious places. It may be helpful to have or create a name for your community area to be a reminder of what makes your community unique. Use the electronic or paper COI tool, which we'll discuss shortly. Next slide, please. Your input is valuable to the success of the commission. Again, it is a collaborative effort. We've identified the ways you can participate in 3 simple steps. Describe your community. Tell us about your community. What are your shared interests? What brings you together? What is important to your community? Are there nearby areas you want to be in a district with? Nearby areas you don't want to be in a district with? Why or why not? Draw your community on a map. Send your testimony directly to the commission. All this can be done by using an online tool that allows you to describe, draw, and send your input to the commission by visiting drawmycacommunity.org. And I will repeat that, drawmycacommunity.org. And that will be commonly referred to as the COI tool. Next slide, please. You can provide public input to the community, to the commission in several ways, including submitting your input through the Community of Interest Mapping tool, the COI tool, by visiting our website, redrawthelineca.org. That's the commission's website. The COI tool can be accessed through that website, by emailing us, by phoning us, or by postal mail. In addition to English, the online COI tool is available in Spanish, Simplified Chinese, Traditional Chinese, Vietnamese, Tagalog, Korean, Armenian, Farsi, Arabic, Russian, Japanese, Punjabi, and Khmer. Language access, next slide, please. Thank you. Language access is very important to the commission. We have taken several steps to ensure more Californians will be able to participate in the process. We have translated our fact sheet, flyer, FAQs, and redistricting basics presentation in English, Spanish, Simplified Chinese, Traditional Chinese, Vietnamese, Tagalog, Korean, Armenian, Farsi, Arabic, Russian, Japanese, Punjabi, and Khmer. We may provide interpretation services for the public comment section of CRC business meetings if provided with 5-day notice. Written public input can be sent to the CRC in any format and language and will be translated to English. If you need an interpreter to provide input during a meeting, we ask that you notify the commission 5 days prior to the meeting to request interpreter services. The commission will attempt to contract with an interpreter in the requested language. Next slide, please. COVID-19 has delayed many things, including our ability to access census data to help us draw the maps. And that's the basic information to draw the maps, the census data. On February 12, 2021, the Census Bureau announced it would deliver redistricting data to all states by September 30th, 2021. And in March, the Census Bureau announced it would provide the census data in a legacy format in late August. So any delay after July 31st in the state receiving the census data means the commission's final maps will be due after December 15th. We are working with the legislature and others to minimize the impact of the delay on the 2022 elections. Slide 22, please.
I wasn't sure if I was on the right slide. Sorry, because I had
Oh,
skipped and had to go back. So
You're perfect, Elizabeth.
Okay, thanks.
We're working. We're working in tandem.
Okay,
Thank you.
thanks.
The U.S. Census data of the U.S. Census Bureau continues to update us all about the expected availability of census data. We will adjust our timeline as needed. So you're looking at the timeline that we initially thought might be what we were following, with hopes of having public information, public education sessions from February through May, public input meetings from June to August, census data expected to the state sometime after that, and everything falls in place once that data is received. But this is open to be moved as we move this data, and we try to fit it into the parameters of the election cycle. So those are some very important topics for us. The timeline is a work in progress. Next slide, please. And my last reminder, California Government Code Section 82533 strictly forbids commissioners and staff from taking public input outside of a regularly scheduled commission meeting or official public input meeting. However, at any point, you're more than welcome to visit our website at wedrawthelineca.org to provide input. You will find instructions on how to do so under the public comment section. And next slide, please. Because we want to engage the public in the redistricting process, we are conducting educational sessions like today's presentation prior to going out for public input. To request an educational session, please contact the commission by emailing Patricia Vasquez Topit at crc.ca.gov. Follow us on social media. We draw the lines CA. And we want to hear from you. If you have any questions and I can answer them, I'll be more than happy to assist. Thank you very much.
Well, my first question is, did I hear R2D2 there? I heard something.
So I should silence my phone, huh?
That's all right. we all go through that. Generally, so Southland Regional, we are bipartisan. We don't look at issues whether it's Republican or Democratic. We look at we look at things based on real estate and property owning and everything. And so. But this is informational for our members, because our members can do things on their own, and our members themselves of other entities. And so that, I think, a lot of these people might be in groups of like a woman council of real estate. And so they may ask, to share this information as well. So it's very educational for us to learn how this is done. So my question is, on the map drawing, do they want mostly individual people to do that, or do they look at nonprofits such as churches or synagogues or groups that do submitting?
We are open. We are open to receiving maps on any level. So we want the public input any way it comes. If some people are more comfortable submitting their very own map. I want to submit my input. I want them to have my interpretation, my iteration of this map, and I want that piece. Other people want to do it collaboratively as a group, and even some organizations have what they call unity maps, to where those community members and those groups got together and they decided that this is the best. This is their interpretation of the best view of what this district should look like. So we in our decision making, we want the map any way you feel we should receive it. It's entirely up to you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, I also wanted to say, I think it was about 1.5 years ago. Is that when you started going through the process to be a
Correct.
commissioner? Yeah. because I did promote that during a couple of my meetings. I promoted to my realtor members because, you know, it was asking for all different diversities to apply. And I had a handful of members who started the process. And I guess it's a pretty difficult process because they would come to me and slowly but surely, as they got to different steps, they would just pop out like, this is too hard. This is too much work. I'm committing to too much. So I commend you for what you're doing. I know it was a long road and a hard road for you to get where you are. It wasn't just given to you or you just didn't win a drawing. I mean, it was work to get there. So.
Thank you. And I appreciate you saying that again. And I thought it was, and I think, I mean, we all have similar values and upbringings. And I just thought it was my way of contributing. You know, I want to leave my area, my neighborhood, my community in a better place if I can. And I just thought it was a great way for me to contribute. So I'm more than happy to be representative or work on the behalf of Californians, on behalf of us.
All right, thank you. Louisa, did you have something?
Oh, I just wanted to thank you for being here and educating us. It's great to have new information and be updated in all aspects of our state. And I'm thank you again.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I know it's a lot to chew on, and for some of us, it's sort of a new way to engage. But we see how vitally important it can be, and I encourage you. You know, in our effort, our goal is to make it more accessible and easier to be able to provide that input for something that affects us all.
Thank you. All right, thank you, Derek. And then I think I forward the recording to you. Is that what I'll do?
Yeah, or you can forward it to Patricia Vasquez.
Got it.
Yep, and that should be able to get it done. If not, they'll bug you.
Okay.
Right. All right. You guys have a wonderful day. Any questions or comments? Please reach out to the commission, reach out to me, and I'll be more than happy. I'll find the answer or get you the information that you need. I really, truly appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
All righty. You guys have a good day. See you later.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye.
Okay. We'll go back to our meeting.